everybody. It's Heather with the Leadership with Heart podcast. And today I am super thrilled to have Sarah Coleman on as my guest. Now, interestingly enough, I was going to speak in Oregon and was at a restaurant and just started to talk to her, and we just interacted. And she said a couple things to me that made me go, I'd love to interview her on my show. I think she is a leader with heart. Well, that's why you're here, Sarah. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So tell everybody where you're at right now in your leadership journey, and then we'll talk a little more about how we met.
I am currently the chief of staff at a trial litigation support firm here in Portland, Oregon called NAEGELI Deposition Trial. It's a wonderful company. I feel very fortunate to be here. Wow.
Well, that's awesome. And then okay, so thinking about that exchange we had, where we were talking about, like, we were both sitting in the corner, like waiting for food we had ordered food to go, and you were smart enough to have like an appetizer while we were waiting, and I just had like a drink and was waiting for the food to come. And at some point we're like, is this food and like never coming? And then you watched me, you started kind of interacting. But then I remember me saying something, you saying something to me about that you tell your kids that there's like, today is the best day ever and every day is the best day. So you like make the best day out of every day, and that you always pick like your favorite person. And so that particular day, you and I, I was your favorite person, which was kind of cool because you were mine as well. So, but that's how we met. But it was like, I find that I'm looking for those seeds of care and like love and like kindness, like everywhere. And so when I see it, I don't care what it is or whose title is or anything. I just want to grab it. And that's what I did with you. We both just kind of were connected to each other. And I'm like, all right, have you on the show.
Well, thank you. Yes, it was wonderful watching you. I have found that just watching people, sometimes I have learned the biggest lessons. And that's important for me to remember, just to keep that in mind, that someone may be watching me when I'm interacting with another person. But I watched the way that, there was some mistakes being made with your order, and the way that you gently but firmly approached the subject with the, with the staff there. I knew instantly, this person, she's got some leadership qualities. She's a leader. And I was really drawn to you and liked that you were an example of how to approach people in a way that helps them understand that there's something that you need, but also helps them to retain that information, because you did it in such a way that the person didn't become defensive. They were able to take in what you were saying, and they heard you, and they were smiling with you, but you got your point across. And I just loved that about you. That was the lesson I took home, and that's why you were my favorite person of the day.
I love that. Anybody listening, isn't that just amazing? I love people when the idea of going out of your way in your mind to select the favorite person of the day. And then, like, of course, telling your kids, like, this is going to be a great day. Like, just having that mindset, because boy, what does it do? It probably changes so many things. It's almost like whatever news you get that day, or like whoever you interact with that day, like your mindset is already set that you're going to be finding or seeking that favorite person. And your mindset is already set that it's going to be the best day ever. I don't know. I just think that's that's a level of intentionality and self-leadership. That's one of the kind of tenets of my caring leadership models, self-leadership. And I felt like it was just so strongly exhibited in you that I was like, I have got to talk to her more about like just how she is, how she leads herself, how she leads others around, and influences people around you. So I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Okay. So we know where you started from. So tell, what the people that like have reported to you in the past, or like where like now you're moving into this new role, which is so exciting. But
Yes.
How would people define you and like describe your leadership style? Like you kind of describe mine as like gentle and decisive, kind of like gentle and that kind of thing. And so how would they describe your style?
I have had people describe my style as that I lead them in a way where I want them to be almost better than me, which sometimes can sound strange. But I believe that when you're leading a team, you should have people that could take on the role, your role, if you ever left or something changed, that they can take on that position and do a better job than you did. So I had, what's that called? Transformational leadership. I think that's the term for that. I want to inspire people to be the best in their position, but also grow. I love when I have somebody who I see this potential in them, and maybe they just lack confidence, or they've had a bad leader, someone who has just put them down. I love coming alongside those people and really showing them, oh, you've got all this potential. Let's get there. Let me give you the tools to help you succeed in your current position, and then tools to help you move forward. That's the kind of leadership that I've heard and that I strive for. So
Yes.
that's my style.
Oh, I love that. I love it so much. I mean, is there a drive? Like, do you think about like, as a child, or like, is there something that, because the way you even pay attention to me, even in the restaurant, like that's someone has to be super aware. Is there something in your background that like makes you, number one, be more aware of those around you, but also like the drive to really be a better leader, like always ramping up your leadership skills and just trying to get better? Is there something in your background or some story there?
Yes. When I had a change in my life when I turned 30. Basically, at that point, I became a single mom with my 2 boys. And I was taking a flight to go visit a friend, thinking, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I had no college degree. I had been a stay-at-home mom that whole time. And I watched a gentleman who had missed his flight run up to a gate agent. And she was so kind to him. And I'm just sitting back watching this. And she took the time to get on the phone with one of his family members. She rebooked his flight. She took care of him. And this wasn't even someone who was taking care of me. And I went, that's what I want to do. I want to be a part of whatever this is, where I can just do that. And she changed my life when she was kind to somebody else, because that's what inspired me to move forward with my career with the airline industry. And that was my first job outside of the home. Wow. And I decided that's what I wanted to be for somebody, not just the person who I'm working with directly one-on-one, but who outside, who's watching the interaction that needs inspiration, that needs to just see some kindness somewhere out there in the world. And so then moving up, I decided that, you know what, maybe I can train people to be that way, to have those interactions where they think, you know, maybe I can just go the extra mile for somebody in this moment. And so that's what started to develop my leadership. My move in the airline industry at that time was, okay, I want to be there to support employees coming up in helping those around them. So that was the big moment for me with changing sort of my perspective on being kind to people and leading in that way.
Yeah, you just put tears in my eyes. So if anybody, my nose started getting like pink. Such a sap. This stuff is like stories. Stories are so important, and it's real. The real, genuine stories of heart stuff, you know, is really, it's great. And it's one of the things that makes me think of, and just for those who are listening, kind of to ponder, is I always say, like, people are always watching, you know, whether you have a title or not, like people are always watching, and we all have an opportunity to leave someone feel like having more positive experience, like feeling important in our presence, or feeling like put down in our presence. And we have that power. We have the ability to do that. Yes. And this example was exactly like one of those, where it's like, she wasn't even dealing with you. You were just watching from a distance, and she changed your entire trajectory of your entire life. Like, wow. So that is a very powerful concept. And then we think about those that have a title, which means that they have more authority, how much we lean on that title versus saying, how much can I choose today to like uplift the person around me, or to be that person who makes that other person who's like nervous or scared or whatever it is, settle them down, calm them down, and put them on a different, better path. And what does that do for people around them up their path and up their journey? Like, again, with yours as an example, like, what does it do for those around them? It's crazy to think about. People, I think we just, as leaders especially, I think we underestimate those with titles. Let me just say, like, managers of people. We underestimate that power we have to really change not just one person's life, but like the lives of so many up the road by our actions, by our behaviors, by how we treat people. It's just powerful.
Exactly. I call it being the first domino. You know, when you stack up dominoes in a row,
Yes.
And you knock that first one down, and then there's just all of them follow. So that's why whenever someone asks me, how's your day? I always say, no matter what, I'm having the best day ever. Immediately, that changes the conversation. And now we're focusing on a positive. So in my leadership roles, even when I'm stressed out or there's just piles of paperwork, I always say I'm having the best day, because I want to set the person up for success that I'm speaking with, who's come to me, that it's now a positive, environment for them. And then that maybe I can be the first domino. That's what I'm hoping that it's a domino effect of, kindness and positivity and leading in that way. I think fear-based leadership is such a mistake anymore with companies that it's so much better to have people that you support feel comfortable and happy to be around you while still respecting you and being able to follow through with things. So that's what I try to do.
I love that so much. I have to say I'm pretty good at picking people out. Like there's only like I have a 98% accuracy rate, I think. I'm just picking people and saying, oh my gosh, come with me. This is so good. So good. Okay. So for those who don't share, now is the time for you to really share. So it's the time of the episode where you share a time when maybe you weren't so amazing. Like maybe there was something that you, when we think about leadership, there's some area where you're like, I kind of always regret how I did this or how this turned out. And as a leader, can you share a story with us about that?
I can. I did fall into the trap of the fear-based leadership when there was a role that I had where there was basically it was a quota of correcting conversations that you needed to have per day. And instead of challenging that, I started looking for ways to have corrective conversations with the employees that I supported. So it was almost like trying to find areas of, where they've made a mistake, but it was never like a genuine coaching opportunity because I was just trying to check that box on my daily task. And I really feel like I failed. So, oh man, I'm getting emotional about it because, you can't take those conversations back with people where they were afraid of losing their job. And I had those conversations where they were so fearful, and I should have supported them better by challenging that task. And I regret that. I regret not challenging that. So anyway, sorry about that.
It's okay. Well, sometimes these stories, sometimes, you're going really deep and they hit you, and it's when you're telling the truth, when it's real, it's there. And us being able to see this, what happened as an opportunity to say, I'm not going to do that again. I never want to do that again is where all the learning is at, right? Did you feel like you, from that experience, like could say like, yeah, I haven't done that since, or something I struggle with, or this is what I did to change? Is there?
Oh, I have not done that since. And what I did to change was there was some learning. I had to develop my confidence in myself, and knowing that I was chosen to be a leader, and that meant that I could go to my leadership, people above me, to say, can we look at this again? Can we look at this process? Can we reevaluate how we are following up with our employees, or this idea of like looking for mistakes? I've grown now where I know I can talk to people about changes in policy. But that did take some time. It took some confidence. I had to really become confident in who I was before I was able to approach those changes. But now I know that it's super important to make sure that your team feels safe and valued And when you do that, you'll find that your team, they don't make as many mistakes because they feel comfortable. Whenever I have someone watching over my shoulder, I feel like that's when I make the most mistakes. I'm getting nervous. But when you take a step back, have your team feel comfortable and that they can trust you as a leader, you'll find that those mistakes, they kind of go away.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Yes, the safety is important. And
yes,
I appreciate you sharing that. That's wow. So for right now, we're going to transition now where you get to ask me anything. You get to ask me, you kind of become the podcast host and get to ask me anything. What question do you have of me?
Well, I shared with you the moment that my life took a career shift. And so what do you have a moment that you experienced that set you in the on the path that you are now with developing leadership, caring leadership for people, and what started that for you?
I think the work, I felt like the caring leadership concept started for me really young, just like being in an environment where I didn't necessarily feel cared for because of my background. And there was a lot of rejection. I come from an interracial interfaith marriage, and my mom is white and Jewish, dad is Black and Christian. And my mom's family was really I was an outcast. I was really not included. And it was kind of a rough situation. There's some other types of adversities there too, but at any rate, I was there, and I had this aunt who was a caring person. She always went out of her way, but I often felt like I wasn't really cared for in the way I should have been. Then many years later, of course, I'm working and I'm in a job, and there's a merger that's happening, and I'm looking around and just noticing that like no one's caring for the people who actually drive the business forward, the customer, the employees. Like no one's actually finding out from them what they need. They're just like, they are making assumptions about revenue, monthly recurrent revenue, what they need, what they want, what their goals are. And they're not saying, okay, let's pause. Let's like talk to all the people. Let's get everybody's feedback to see if we can make this happen. Anyway, I just realized in that moment, because I kind of took on that role of doing that, of trying to be the voice for people, that somebody had to do that, had to listen more in order to demonstrate the care that people really want. They need. And I just, ever since then, I've been doing it. So caring leadership is just kind of how I've always been like the voice for people. People always come to me. I've always tried to uplift people. So it just was a natural thing for me. Am I perfect at it? Absolutely not. Like, nope. Am I always caring? Absolutely not. But 8.5 times out of 10, that's who I am. So it just represents me. And yeah, that's it. So I just decided to lean into it and see how you can kind of evangelize the message more across the globe and to create more caring leaders, which is why I created that book.
So that's so great. I love that you did that and you wrote a book. I just think, man, the bravery. I am afraid at times to take that additional step with some of these ideas that I have about caring for people. So I am so inspired by you. I hope it's okay to say that.
Oh, of course. Thank you. I appreciate that. And, I want to inspire, because I think it's, as Stephen M. R. Covey says, inspiration is longer lived. So it's one of those things, instead of motivation, we can inspire someone, then you might see a longer lived change that they're wanting to go do for themselves or for others. So I'm happy to inspire all that I can.
Are you more inspired by leaders who you've had a positive impact, who've positively impacted you? So, or do you learn more from people who have been positive role model to you, or from people who you've actually had a negative experience with?
I learn from both equally. I do this kind of exercise in my audiences when I'm speaking, and I'll say, like, who's that manager that you like will never forget? Like, they touched your heart. They were always in your corner. Like, you will never ever forget that manager. And of course, everybody's hands raise up, but sometimes they're like, oh, I like this. And then you say, what about the manager who like treated you like a jerk, like you were a piece of dirt on their shoe? Like, and all of a sudden, everybody's arms goes up like really, really fast, and there's a lot more arms. So we tend to remember the negative in a way because it's so painful. And then it might take us just a second or two more to remember the positive. But I would say that I'm impacted by both. I would probably say that I choose my life. My life has been more about doing the opposite of what I've experienced in a negative light. So I probably have leaned more into, I don't want to be like that. And so this is how I'm choosing to show up. That's a very good question. Yeah. That's, it's an interesting place to be. We all are doing that. We're all making choices every day. Who are we choosing to be? Again, like you said, like, how are we showing up for others, and how do people see us, and how do we change others' lives just by our actions, whether we know it or not? It's just, it's a deep thing to be considering, and it's important to be aware of it, I think.
It is.
Often. Okay. So for those who are listening right now, they might need just a couple of words of inspiration, some just like pearls of wisdom to get them through the week, to be thinking about it as it relates to their leadership. It might be a couple pearls of wisdom you'd leave them with.
Oh, well, I always am going to say, just that doing your best to have the best day ever. I know that's not really like an old school pearl of wisdom. But that's just what I give to people. Life is hard, and it is hard to be in leadership right now, especially. But looking for something every day to be excited about, that's going to keep you going in your job, no matter what position that you are in. If you just find one thing or one area where you know what, I did well today. I was kind in my role, and this is how I did that. And that person over there, even if we don't get along, I'm going to make them my favorite person of the day. That, just look for something every day to be happy about. That'll get you through the hard days. It got me and my boys through some dark times. Every day they'd ask me, who's your favorite person of the day, Mom? And they still do. So if you just find something to hold on to look forward to, it makes all the difference in the world.
I love that so much. What really a profound message, because I think what often happens is, particularly in our really like politically charged environment that we're in right now,
Yes.
we just always are trying to look at things or see people as like the other, or as the enemy, or like that kind of thing. And yes. I'm like you, where like I'm always seeking to go like, how can I find the middle ground, or like how can I bring them closer to me closer to them. I'm not trying to say like I'm wrong, you're right. It's just like let's try to understand each other. And I feel like it's a better way to live. Like I think it's less stress. I feel like our outlook is just better if we walk that way, instead of always having to be the person who's right, or be the person who's, say, us versus them. It's us, it's we, and like what can we do, we who are all different, to kind of live on this planet together in the most fruitful way, I guess. So I love your perspective so much, Sarah. I really do. And
thank you.
It's amazing. So thank you for having you. I want to thank you for being on here. And then for those who are listening right now, hopefully you got some good nuggets here and are just taking this all to heart, thinking about the impact that we have as leaders and of those who are around us, whether we're interacting with them or not, or indirectly, and how we can change that just by our mindset, by our decision to be that person who is going to do better. So don't forget to share this episode far and wide as well. Again, Sarah, thank you so much for being on here. It's been great.
Thank you so much.
I'm so happy that we met. So yay. All right. Thanks everybody for listening to the Leadership with Heart podcast. Be well.